Yeah.
It's good to see you all. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, well, let me give a little bit of context to why we're all hanging out today. Sammy called me the other day and was like, "Yo, I got this idea. Like, there's a really interesting problem that I'm like feeling like I creatively want to solve." And so we had a really good call, and it kind of exposed, I think, what a lot of us do when we're like, we really are passionate about solving a problem, which is like immediately jumping to a solution. Like in this case, is like, I think I need to build an app. And I was like, dude, yeah, so many people feel that way. And a lot of people do build apps, you know? And I was like, I got to get her on a call with Fletcher because no one that I know of has built more apps than Fletcher Greneman. So I think there's like he's definitely got some like context as to what it takes to build an app. So I want to explore that a little bit. But really, I think one of the things Fletcher is like the best at is slowing people down to really identify the problem and
Mm,
identify potential solutions that maybe make sense. And so
mhm,
obviously, like, you know, we have a company called Jauntboards. It's
mhm,
not an app. It'll teach you how to
mhm,
build an app. It'll help you do that.
mhm,
But also it might expose some other ways that you can solve the problem as well. So that's kind
mhm,
of what I wanted to explore today. We have no like hard and fast agenda or way of getting there. But I thought
mhm.
maybe like the best way to start this conversation is if you could kind of take me back into that energy of when you called me and you're like here's the pain point, like here's what's going on, like what I feel compelled to do, like share that with the team and we'll kind of take it from there.
Yes, for sure. I think thank you so much, Nicole. This is like amazing. And thank you both for your time, James and Fletcher. It's like seriously so awesome to be here. So yeah, so basically I have a similar passion as Jumpsuit and Nicole with like the freelancer's journey and also just the experience of the entrepreneur, the small business owner. I've been one on and off for about 10 years, my wife and I. And something that I'm a crossroad that I'm kind of coming towards is this sustainability, this long term ability to hold this career, right? Like being able to chase energy and chase ideas and pitch ideas and do all these things. But at the core of it, I really feel like it is this financial ability to sustain this life. And that life looks like uh, you're one email away from sustaining your bills for about a quarter or maybe like a month or whatever. And that's just the freelancer's life. I've experienced it. And, anyways, so something that I've been thinking about is how to basically zoom out on that experience and potentially create something that could kind of vision cast this bigger picture of that journey, like financially, to be able to say, here's what how much money you could put into something and that could last you 6 months, or here's an investment, or basically a freelancer's budgeting app, or an experience to be able to manage your money in a way that's not just for right now. I get a check for $30,000 working with this client and then I bust through it, right? Or how can that last? Because I do believe in, Nicole, like what you say about how the freelancer's life or the small business owner is going to look like in 10 years. I think it's going to be predominantly the market. But in order for that to be significant change, I do believe that this has to shift um, just in that big picture way. So, anyways, I haven't seen anything like this. And again, I have been trying to manage my money well for a very long time in this freelance world. And also, my wife and I, another aspect of this, my wife and I just bought a home in LA, basically pitching ourselves as basically pitching our business and saying, here's the ebbs and flows of life. Here's what it looks like to manage, what we see forecasting, what has been the past. And that's also something I'm passionate about is ownership. Either it's home ownership or it's investing as a freelancer, an entrepreneur, a small business owner, because I do think that, at least maybe I'm speaking from a personal place, like when you get a big client or whatever, it's hard to see that through a year, or and maybe that's also me aging and kind of seeing my life a little bit differently than maybe in my 20s when things were a little bit more impulsive. So anyways, that is kind of my the problem that I've been foreseeing or seeing a lot more recently, as I see this growing and I want to see more sustainability. I want to see artists be able to manage their money well. I want to see, like, I just want to see people that maybe this isn't the strongest suit kind of have a more long-term vision on this career versus like one email, one check away,
Yeah.
or you know what I mean? So, yes,
Absolutely. I mean, I think most freelancers, the majority of freelancers are in survival mode.
yes,
And
hmm
even still, they prefer it than going
yeah,
back to the 9 to 5, right? So it's kind of like between a
exactly,
rock and a hard
exactly.
place. You know, you feel a
Yep,
little bit
hmm
like crazy.
yep,
But yeah, I mean, so you're hitting on a lot of things. It's like, how do I make more money? Like
hmm
everyone's like, I need to like increase my pipeline and get myself more opportunities. That's on their
hmm
mind. It's
yep,
once I and then building systems to make sure you get paid on time. Like there's all of
yes,
that
yeah,
stuff, right?
yep,
And there's so many things attached to that too, right? And then once you get your money, how do you make sure you have a pulse on, you know, the budgeting? How do you extend that
yeah,
runway if
yeah,
you don't know when
yeah,
your next project's coming in? And then
hmm
even when you do have money in the bank and you're trying
hmm
to, I don't know, have a life, like figure
hmm
out, well, now that I don't have my 9 to 5, what are my options for retirement when I don't have my 401k anymore? So there's like, there's
exactly,
that world.
hmm
There's,
hmm
you mentioned I'm trying to buy a house, and then you've got all these like older systems in place that are like, I need to see
hmm
2 years of proof at least that you have consistent
yes,
revenue. And so
yes,
there's all these systems in the world that aren't like working
hmm
well. And
hmm
and you're right, like
hmm
I have been preaching this for the past 6 years. By 2027, over 50% of the workforce will be independent. So there's just like
yes,
a what's cacophony mean? I don't know if I'm using this right. A cacophony of like problems to be solved,
yes, yeah,
but
yeah,
you're looking at it in a linear way, right? It's just like
hmm
you can just kind of
hmm
solve the whole thing end to end and make it really
hmm
streamlined for us. Like
hmm
how might we
hmm
do that? Is that a good way
hmm
of summarizing
That's
all of it?
perfect. Yeah, why fight the system? Why not embrace it in a way that looks, that is working with how the new way is going to be, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then let me ask, what kind of led you to jump to a conclusion of like, maybe it's an app?
Yeah. Because I basically have been looking for a personal budgeting app. Like I've used Mint for a really long time and that just went under. And now Copilot is like an app that I really like. I'm a visual person, so I really value if I'm going to invest in something, I want it to look and feel great. And honestly, I haven't found a lot of, and then when it comes to invoicing or managing that kind of stuff, there's a lot of different apps as well, but it's kind of like this ecosystem that's so working away from each other. You got to like kind of dip into 10 other things to manage this well. And so that's kind of been my experience. And I just have been like, this feels like it could be a lot easier or a little bit more streamlined. And that maybe is just very naive to say. But in regards to just being in your hand, being able to see it, manage it, check it, that's where I thought maybe an app would be a good way to, manage it.
Yeah. Awesome. Fletcher, I'll just kind of let you hop in and
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sure you're like dying to jump into the conversation.
for sure. And I mean, same as I very much resonate with the problem you're talking about. And just to even go back to
Mhm,
that, I was thinking in my own
mhm,
career, I just remember, um, I think I still am almost, I'm just graduating out of this camp, but it feels
mhm,
like you have all of your life in front of you still. And so like having to burn at such a high rate or like find, work on your pipeline and do the work and, get it
mhm,
done. It's like kind of exciting. It's like, oh, this is
mhm,
my, you don't even think anything except like, this is awesome. This
mhm,
is great for the bigger project. And then I just turned 39 last week. And I think over the
mhm,
last, I mean, it's not been sudden, but definitely over the last
mhm,
5 to 10 years, just realizing, okay, this isn't really sustainable. Like I'm just burning
mhm.
so hard. Like,
Yeah,
how do I make this
yeah,
more consistent? And then, likewise, we bought a house here,
mhm,
as freelancer. I've been a freelancer basically my
mhm,
entire career. And so,
mhm,
the scrutiny that they went through, like you're saying, yeah, it's built
mhm,
for employer-employee relationship. That's how banks
mhm,
know and can learn to trust you with, their money. And so
Mhm.
I've never been through such a, cavity search before when when I was trying to get the loan. They did. I couldn't believe it. Like
Painful.
they had me send 2 years of bank statements, and then they would call me every like maybe 3 times a week, and they'd say, "Hey, line 27,000, it says, Pizza Hut. What was that for?" I'm not kidding. I'm like, well, we went to Pizza Hut." He's like, "Okay, okay." And then what's this one? And it's just like a weird, like the things they asked about were so strange, and it would happen, all
Mhm.
through the week. I was like, this is
Mhm.
such an intense process. Like they're
Mhm.
really looking for a way to say no to you. So anyway,
Mhm.
all that to say, I definitely hear the problem that you're
Mhm.
preaching on. It's like some way to help freelancers normalize, and kind of figure out how to
Mhm.
approach that. And in my opinion too, just to go riff off of what the problem you're seeing, like, I
Mhm.
used to think everything was a top line problem, like just, oh, I'm just gonna get more and more work in. And I feel like what you're talking about, the budgeting, that's about your bottom line. Like, how do I make whatever comes in
Mhm.
work for me in a
Mhm.
way that I can still engage in a world that's built for employee-employer relationships, And
Yep.
so yeah,
Yep.
anyway, makes a lot of
Mhm.
sense for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and also, I mean, even to speak to the Mint and Copilot, I used that for a while.
Mhm.
I've
Mhm.
done actually a lot of fintech apps,
Mhm.
specific, and so it's just an interesting space. There's really a few people who hold the key to the data behind like our transactions we're making, and to interact with
Mhm.
their data to pull it and like clean it up and actually have like
Mhm.
rich transaction data, which is the start, kind of the foundation for any kind of real good budgeting app, is
Mhm.
extraordinarily complicated. Um,
Mhm.
up, I would say, I have to say, like before AI, BAI.
Uh-huh.
That's yeah, I don't even I don't know if they've adopted it yet. I've actually yeah, anyway.
Mhm.
There's
Mhm.
having to bring in the transaction IDs and figure out what they are is like super
Mhm.
complicated. I don't know if you've noticed even on
Mhm.
Copilot, but you
Mhm.
go through Plaid, I think it's called, right? Where you have to
Mhm.
authenticate your
Yep.
bank, pulls the data.
Mhm. Yeah.
That layer, that iPass layer,
Mhm.
is super
Mhm.
complicated and changes all the time, and so that's a lot of
Mm.
reasons why apps in the App Store that do budgeting end up failing after a while,
Mhm.
because the maintenance of making
Gotcha.
sure you're synced to the data, and it changes all the time on who owns the data,
Mhm.
and then it changes
Mhm.
depending on what bank you're going through. It's super complicated, and then after that, you just get
Mm.
like a fire of information, and
Mhm.
it's up to you
Mhm.
to code like to figure out
Mhm.
transaction IDs and what they actually are for. Anyway, it's really complicated. I can
Yeah.
talk about that for 2
Yep.
hours.
Yep.
But such a complicated space and interesting. A lot of
Yeah.
fintech companies coming out right now because everyone feels it. Like basically, there's
Mhm.
like 2 mafia families that own all of our banking data, and they're
Mm.
extremely slow to like
Mhm.
innovate.
Mhm.
And as one who has actually been in the deep parts of that, like I saw
Mhm.
why as well. Like it's not just that they're lazy or greedy. Like there is a lot of
Mhm.
security reasons of why that is really complicated, but they're just really slow
Mhm.
to innovate. And so it feels like
Mhm.
a right market. Then you go to
Mhm.
approach it and you start building a
Mhm.
technology layer on it, and then you
Mhm.
find these like really critical foundational parts to your success are always changing every day. Like you could have the whole app up and running, and then they just change some transaction ID, whatever, and like now
Mhm.
your whole app is broken again. Uh, but
Mhm.
anyway, just wanted to kind of
Mhm. Yeah.
talk through that, share I agree
Mhm.
there's a problem, or yeah, a
Mhm.
pain point there for sure.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's a ripe marketplace.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I mean, and that wasn't like intended to burst any bubbles
Oh
or
No. Mhm.
yeah,
No,
it's just
don't
like
feel it. Yeah. Uh-huh.
it's like yeah, I mean there's so many things to consider and yeah, like
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
I wanted Fletcher's perspective, especially in
Yeah.
fintech, because he's got a lot of
Mhm.
experience there. But I would say, like,
Mhm.
let's say it wasn't so complicated
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so expensive.
Mhm.
Um, to kind of pull Jauntboards into the conversation, like, let's say Sami actually like had financial backing and like a bunch of green lights to be able to build an app, but she doesn't know the process. She's never done it before.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I would love for you, Fletcher, to kind of do a quick demo of Jauntboards and how that might be able to help her get going.
Yeah. For sure. And actually, just to end on a more positive note on that last conversation, I would say there is a after AI moment now where there
Mhm.
isn't a ton of apps that have now tried to solve it completely on the shoulders of AI,
Mm.
doing that stuff.
Mhm.
So there is
Mhm.
definitely like opportunity. I mean, financial budgeting. Actually, when you look up industries that are going to be most affected by AI, it's healthcare, where you have personalized
Mhm.
healthcare, and it is financial. It's budgeting. It's personalized budgeting. Because if you think about it,
Mm.
everyone is a snowflake, so you can't programmatically build a
Mhm.
app, you know, sophisticated
Mhm.
enough to fully analyze who you are and then give you a specific budget, but AI
Mm.
can't. So actually,
Totally.
if anything, I want to set it up like there is a moment in space right now where like what was very difficult, where people like Mint or even Copilot, and Copilot
Mhm.
hasn't failed, but where these other
Yeah.
companies have start and come out and build on a foundation that's much more complicated. We've
Mm.
kind of wiped the slate clean, and there is definitely a competitive market, and there's something
Mhm.
someone will do
Mhm.
that is going to
Yeah.
be completely on AI, and it's going to be very powerful.
Yeah. Okay, well, you've got my wheels turning, right? Because I think, we can show her kind of how the process goes. And if you're down for it, I'm willing to kind of expose the big feature release we have coming out in a month, because I do think there's some creative ideas there,
Mhm.
like Sammy pulling in her bank statements for AI to analyze, to be able to do some
Mm.
things where maybe we can't demo it quite today, but we can
Mhm.
ideate around it and cast some vision. If you're down for that,
Yeah,
Mm.
that could be a really interesting conversation.
yeah.
Mhm.
So it's kind of two conversations. One is like if you're going to go and build an app, how can you use Jauntboards to help you like
Mhm.
figure out the things? And another one is, could Jauntboards actually be a place you do that for yourself or whatever, even
Mm.
for other people, right?
Mm.
Kind of those two
Mhm.
routes, Nicole.
Love it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
No, it sounds good, and this
Amazing.
is definitely, just doing it on the fly, so we'll just see if we hit any issues, but yeah, let's explore the concepts. I actually wanna show you 2 things first. One is since we were, well, let's do the obvious one first. So, I'm just jumped into Jumpsuit's, jump board here,
Mm.
and I'm looking at their list of services, and, we do have one in experience design called native app design, and this is
Mhm.
actually a process I put together, after I've built over 60, apps in my
Wow.
lifetime, and actually some of them being fintech, so definitely know the
Wow.
space well, and through that
Mhm.
process, figuring out what is the process for native app design. Now, native app design is maybe feels a little bit unfair to the title because it's not just about like getting the idea and applying it. This is actually fully comprehensive where you understand the users, what the problem is, and then create and craft a solution and then test that solution and then build it out. So
Mm.
if people are curious, they can go to jauntboards.app/jumpsuit and then find that native app design, and you'll have access to actually see the the process that I used in Employee to actually build an app goes through this. And
Amazing.
it's actually what's interesting too is I am literally going through this right now. I have a client, and we kicked off about a week ago, and we're building a golf app, and it's really exciting. It's very fun. I'll also say like building an app is probably one of the funnest project types that I ever get to be on. As a
Mm.
designer, they're super exciting. They're really fun. A lot of variables that are typically undefined are defined for
Mm.
you, which is
Mm.
wonderful. Like you
Mhm.
have a box to think outside of, if that makes
Mm.
sense. And
Mhm.
anything else,
Mhm.
like you just everything's possible. But I love app
Mhm.
design. It's super fun, and this process will definitely get you from start to finish. On building
Amazing.
that, and I'll send that to you in a second. But I also want to show you another thing that we've been working on. Because of this landscape change where we now have AI, a lot of people are asking themselves, hey, if they have a product, how do we actually like integrate AI into our product offering?
Mm.
This is
Mm.
just to expose what we were talking about earlier, which is like there is a unique moment in time where there's a fully there's just a new battlefield, and it's kind of
Mhm.
like it's almost like all app marketplaces have been rebirthed. Like it's just like
Mm.
technology that was 6 months ago was built on a very different mindset and kind of capability set, than what we can build with today. And I would just, I want to add to that, like just from personal experiences, we were so lucky or blessed or whatever. I'm sure if we wrote a book, we thought about it, but the fact that we built Jauntboards when we did, we got a lot of the boilerplate stuff out of the way. And then as we shifted to like focus on features, boom, AI existed. And we almost like got to like get a running start to like the just, which is really lucky, because otherwise we would have spent, I can tell you from experience of building applications, we would have spent a lot of money and effort building stuff that would have been obsolete the second that, you know, what OpenAI opened up their API. So anyway, all that to say, we did put together something called an AI Jumpstart. And basically it's a quick way to research your industry or what you're doing and figure out what, how AI could specifically disrupt or be incorporated into that platform. And this is where I'll get into a little bit of what Nicole was wanting to hint at. Well, if you think that's a good time to talk about it, Nicole.
No, go on. I'm following.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So what's really interesting about these processes you're seeing here, so these this process is, again, it's called AI Jumpstart. It's a pretty simple thing where you just run through and you basically define what your product is, and then you look at competitors. You do research on your competitors. You do a SWOT analysis on all your competitors and yourself. So basically, you're working for your competitors for a minute, and then also for your own. And then within all that information, you identify where AI opportunities are. So we comprehensively like look at everything that that AI could disrupt, and we figure out what that is. And then we put together an AI recommendation. So essentially, it's a landscape analysis with a very specific like AI lens to it. And as simple as this is, what's really incredible about it, and what Jauntboard is doing, and we're going to release, you know, probably here in the next 30 days, is this is actually a really unique Jauntboard that it actually can build itself. It's called autopilot. So basically, it can go through and put together these documents for you. So what actually is happening here is this is loading what you're going after. So, and in-depth research of figuring out market trends and figuring out where AI can assist you, and then it's loading in these milestones one at a time, with this being kind of the prompt engine, and then actually building and exporting that specific deliverable. So let me go into one real quick and kind of show you. Okay, so here's one that we did for impact. Where you can go in and you can actually see here's the competitor set. So to reframe this again, AI was able to do this entirely on its own. And we can kind of unwind and figure out, there's so many more applications, but this is just the way Jump is currently using it. But it puts together this document. Literally no human hands have touched it. But it goes through and figures out, understands what the product is, defines the competitor set, builds those out, and then kind of figures out what the criteria it's going to use to actually research it. And what we're doing that's a little unique too is we're also bringing in citations. So throughout this entire process, we're learning and figuring out from different sources, so we can cite all those here. This is a really specific and kind of a new way to use AI, because it exposes where the information is coming from, and it's also truncating it into micro processes. Where maybe before, where you'd ask it like, "Hey, how can AI, affect the finance industry?" It's going to sort of have to do a bunch of computations, and it might get lost along the way. We're actually breaking that idea into micro steps that AI can go through one at a time, and then reference when it moves on to the next one. So then we take that defined competitor set, and it goes through and it does competitor research. So you're going to see here, these are the same competitors it found before, and it researches and kind of figures out what exactly they're good at, what they're doing right now, what their customer base is and online presence is, as well as the entire citation. And then it moves on and it does a SWOT analysis on each one of those as well. So you can see we're actually...
I was going to jump in. I was going to say too, and sorry if you're about to say this, but what's cool is like, this is just what AI is doing. But at any point, if a human wants to come in and say, "Hey, actually AI missed this, and this is really important," right? You can make that change, and then it will learn and apply that to everything else that follows. So like true collaboration between the human magic and the speed and efficiency of AI.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly what Nicole's saying. So I can go back. This is that first document, the competitor that it put together. And if we're like, you know what, I want to add in here, Copilot, right?
Mhm,
I can actually just add it in here and then move back into my Jauntboard and then
mhm,
resume or rebuild these deliverables. And again, it ingests everything from previous steps and moves it forward. And the reason I like to call it autopilot is because it's very much like, the way Tesla talks about autopilot, which basically it's going to drive for you until it hits an obstacle that it does not know how to like overcome, right? And
mhm,
in our case, basically what AI is doing is it's looking for three opportunities. One where AI can do the milestone completely on its own. One where
mhm,
AI can assist you, but it can't actually do the milestone. So a good example of that is like a kickoff or a brief, meeting with the client or an interview
mhm,
process or something. It can't actually obviously
mhm,
go and interview the person. What it does is it
mhm.
assesses what that is, and then it creates for you some sort of material that'll aid in that interview or whatever. So it'll give you like an interview outline or something. So it looks for things that it can do completely on its own, which is what you're seeing here. It looks for opportunities where maybe it can't do it, but it'll assist you, and then it stops whenever it's things that it cannot possibly do. Like film and direct all the scenes in your movie, and so it waits for you to input. So at that point, let's say
Mhm,
one of those with that, you'd go in and hit add
mhm.
deliverable. You'll actually upload whatever that deliverable is that it couldn't do. And then when it's done, when you've opted it, you're going to resume autopilot and it'll take all the information you uploaded before and then keep working through the process for you.
Wow. I This is like the best part of AI is like the partnership with it. Like this
Yeah.
is incredible,
It's
you guys.
amazing. Yeah, and it's in
Wow.
what I love about it is it's gonna keep us all informed, like have that pulse on our own industry. What can AI do better than
Mhm.
me? What
Yeah.
can you?
Mhm.
So it'll help us focus as creatives or just as human
Yeah.
beings who need to work
Mhm.
on where our
Mhm.
true human value is and to
Yes.
have
Mm.
data behind all of that. So in our
Mhm.
platform, we'll learn like, yeah, it seems like AI can do a SWOT analysis, but 90% of people using AI to do a SWOT analysis is going in and making changes. So it can only do
Mm.
it moderately well. So we're going to be collecting all this data and insight
Mhm.
about actually like
Mhm.
AI and humans'
Mhm.
abilities to get work done.
Random tech question, like, does this like, say all of us input our own, version of this, will it then understand, like, our own markets and collect that data as a whole as well? Does that make
It is.
sense what I'm saying?
I'm not. Just maybe to answer the
And
question, it is.
she's talking about analytics platforms. Like, I mean, like, right? Like the insights coming from jaunt boards, like
Yeah,
industry
yeah.
trends, industry
Yes,
benchmarks.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so we are going through and we're attributing everything. So we know where AI has done it and where humans have intervened and actually moved it
Mhm,
off, and we're
mhm.
favoring the data that has been human driven, basically, just
Mm,
so that we're not putting AI into a feedback loop where it's just sort of regurgitating the same
mhm.
thing. And we're also doing it
Yeah.
in a few really unique ways. I don't want to get too deep into the product itself,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
the product itself also, and we haven't touched on this, actually builds these processes as well for you. A lot of people don't have the mindset where they understand how to do a structured process. They just think, oh yeah,
mhm,
someone puts a quarter in this year and then a app design comes
mhm,
out the other year. Like I don't know
mhm.
even what happens in between. But
Mm,
so what we do is we've actually built this so that it helps you. You can actually literally just put in app
mhm,
design, hit generate, and it'll build for you a full process of what that looks like. So it helps get you into a process mindset where now you can kind of twist and turn or tweak that process so it's more
mhm,
specific to your skill set, or you're perfecting maybe a milestone layout that does autopilot better. But throughout
mm,
all that, we're actually tracking and monitoring which items have been AI created and which ones have been human created. So if I go in here and say edit uh, phases and milestones, you're going to see a bunch of milestones here. You can see there's a little rocket ship on client
mhm,
consultation and market research. But if I add a new step
mhm,
and hit enter, this is showing
mhm,
the jumpsuit attribution. So we're attributing input to either if it was AI driven or human driven, so that we can build stronger and more like kind of leverage where you've kind of made overrides. And I want to say all that to really actually lead up to what's really cool is what we're working on now is what we've noticed, especially at Jumpsuit, is that you will really figure out a really good onboarding process or a discovery phase, right? Where you're like, oh, I love this. I love when we do a kickoff meeting, we do a work back plan, we do some this, right? And you have like 5 or 6 steps that maybe even have been tweaked and tuned so to have autopilot run really well on them. And so what's going to happen is when you actually go in to build a brand new Jauntboard, let's say let's start something brand new we've never done before. Jumpsuit's going to start, building, houses, residential houses. I don't know. I just saying it's like nothing before. So if we type that in and said that, construction or residential construction, it's going to generate a process. But instead of just doing it from zero again, right, which it'll first do that, it does a password, it builds out what the best practices are for building, for constructing a house. But then it looks at the phases and milestones and says, okay, this top one, which is actually about discovery as well, where can I look at the library of processes and Jauntboards that you've already built and actually bring in or replace those milestones with things you've already done. So what's nice about that, consistent language. So if you have an onboarding meeting and you've kind of perfected the prompt there, that'll come in as well. And what's really cool is we're actually building these out so that you have example deliverables for each one of these specific milestones. So it'll also bring in an example deliverable. So as you're putting that together, you basically see that like, oh look, I've actually done 90% of the process for this brand new thing I thought of. There's just like this little portion here that I've never really done before. And either you can choose to, do it yourself, have AI do it for you. And then something else we haven't even talked about yet, where it actually looks at those milestones and figures out what skill sets are needed for them. And it actually goes and pulls up to 10 different LinkedIn profiles that match that skill set for you. So you can reach out and hire them, connect with them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll be creating a pipeline back to the independent network to help people get jobs.
Wow.
This
is amazing. This is incredible. My brain is like going everywhere. Like a million ways you could use this. This is incredible.
It is, which kind of takes us to that last section, which was like, okay, I wonder if, and again, I haven't really thought of it enough yet, but is there a way to even produce, for you to actually have a Jauntboard that has a service, let's say, instead of an app, like what if you built a Jauntboard that is the process of, Nicole's the marketer, but basically that helps people mature into a bottom line focused financial, budgeting concept. And you could actually turn that into a really meticulous, like, okay, you need to upload your bank statements here and then do this and do this, but actually let AI make it pass. People could hire you or even buy the Jauntboard because you can gate these Jauntboards and people can buy them and have access to them. And so they could actually get that same output from you, but in a, through a Jauntboard basically. And that's something you can build today without any developer or any massive budget and stuff like that.
I mean, let's play around with it. Go back to the AI generator, and we can modify it ourselves too. But what would the prompt even be? Create a budgeting process for a freelancer, something like that. I mean, we can just maybe start there and see what it gives us.
Yeah.
Takes about 20 seconds and you're always like, what's going to be on the other side?
That's very fast. Like 20 seconds to pull all this up.
All right. So we have an assessment, strategy, and execution. So pretty short on this one, but basically you have an initial consultation, budgeting analysis, which makes sense, resource allocation strategy, risk assessment, budget monitoring, and financial reporting. So, I mean, that gets us to the ballpark. We can start playing with it. So I'm going to go in. We can edit our phases and milestone. Again, we'll just kind of take a false start at this just to kind of think through what the process would look like. But it definitely makes sense, right? That you'll want to talk to this client. Let's say someone came to like, hey, basically let's make you the app, that you were thinking about before. In the app, obviously you would sign up for it and you'd like put in your bank credentials and it would ingest all that information. So here we could actually do that using just Jauntboards, right? Where we'd have essentially, we'll meet with them. We'll probably want to do an maybe it's a financial analysis on like where they're at, maybe their income analysis or something.
And like financial goals. What are they trying?
Yeah, goals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then yeah, we'll probably do that before income analysis. And then I'm almost curious if they're just to go back to that whole idea of the top line and bottom line conversation. Obviously you have an income, but maybe looking at your expenses, right? Okay, so basically from those pieces of information, I'm curious if you would have enough to put together, I guess, once you know their goal and you know what their income is, what their expenses are, you should have the data, I'm thinking, to be able to move in next thing, which is like kind of building out a personalized budget, right? So then I guess we have a budget monitoring down here. We also have stuff, this looks like it's going to talk about, let's just see here. I was thinking this might be more about investing stuff. I like risk assessment. That's pretty good. Basically, we build it. Well, actually, let's go back to your core idea. I mean, is it when you were thinking of this app, did it output a budget for someone to follow, or does it help connect them? I know you were talking about the freelance network. Like, what did it do at that point? Once it kind of knew and understood your goals and what your income and out expenses are, what does it do?
Yeah, I think it would. How I saw it was like it's spreading it out over the course of the year, like being able to, or like, or maybe a time frame, maybe not a year. Maybe it's like, okay, because for example, in Copilot, if your income, it's like you set a budget, but if your income is different, say you make more that month or maybe less, like it doesn't understand that. Like it's like, oh, here's the set income that should come in. It's like, well, can it distribute some equivalent across the month so that it doesn't feel so clunky, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure. Yeah, that's interesting too. So basically this would be like a living, anyway, again, I don't even know if, because this would have to almost be up to date on like where someone's income is to like kind of make those decisions, which is really interesting. I'm not sure.
Well, there's kind of two ways to do that, right? Like they could manually upload their new bank statement, right? So there'd have to be some sort of input, or like if there's ever a way, Fletcher, to create an API that, you know, connects that information. We'll be like opening up a developer marketplace too. So people who are like industry or like problem specific thinkers will be able to, you know, also come up with ideas and execute this stuff. But like maybe we just assume in the meantime that the discipline is just uploading, you know, your current bank statement, or if anything changes, like your goals or something. Right.
But in either way, for this exercise, just really showing that, like, okay, when we really start thinking through, like, okay, what does the app do that we want it to do? What are those little micro steps making? And we could actually set this up so that Jauntboard is automating those same steps, right, for you. And then maybe we're going to hit a few like moments where it's like, okay, well, that one we can't automate, so we're going to wait for, you know, them to upload a file or upload something, and then it'll continue its autopilot down the row, which is just fun, which is almost like a nice way to like build an MVP basically of your application, where it's like, okay, I guess if I set up what the user journey is through the app, right, in your process, then I let it automate the things it can, and I upload what it does. You're going to actually start seeing the value right away of like, oh, what does that output look like? And what does that value look like? And basically you're testing, you know, you're testing an MVP of your product in a very in a non-manual way. I think that's what's interesting. Usually an MVP is extremely manual. You're having to kind of push the spreadsheet from here to here and manipulate it, and you are the wheels. But with Jauntboards having that automatic kind of complete the next milestone, you can kind of set up a pretty cool Jauntboard that does maybe 90% of it. You just need to override 10% of it, and then prove the market, you know, and have some like have a what they call a dirty dozen, you know, like your initial clients that kind of see value from it and help you get testimonials or, you know, lead you and kind of help guide what your future roadmap looks like specifically. Or you find
Yeah.
this process is powerful enough as is. Let's just go through and eat this content, you know, as a paid thing that costs $200, right? It's going to be your profit. And then people can use this as the app, right? They'd buy it and then use that same thing.
Right. And then once you have X amount of, you know, users, maybe it's paid, maybe you give it out for free to get as many people as possible, right? And it's just an email's the gate. Either way, once you start to like show critical mass, you have the data you need to be able to go to investors and say, hey, look, here's the MVP. I've got users and give me the money so I can build an app they actually want it. Or maybe you don't ever have to do that. And this is that.
Yep. Wow. This is amazing. I have a million ideas. So I feel like I'm not gonna pivot because or else we'll be here for days. But this is incredible. I'm like, I have a million Jauntboards I would like to create.
I would love to hear a couple ideas in your head. I'm very curious.
Well, something I didn't talk about at the beginning because I was like, oh, let's run with this idea. The other idea, Nicole, that I was telling you about and why this feels true to me right now is because I'm actually getting my real estate license in LA. And part of that is because I want to be able to sell homes to entrepreneurs, small business owners, and creatives, because that's what we just did. And so I'm a designer and right now I'm doing a lot of pitch deck design. And so when it came to this process of buying our home, I basically had to pitch I had to pitch my wife and I to the bank, right? So that process, like you said, Fletcher, is really, it's hard. Like you have to basically justify yourself and justify the people. So anyways, I was just thinking about real estate for creatives, a Jauntboard that like, if there was a way that as an agent, I could run all this information, the process of what it would look like to buy a home as a small business or as a small business owner. What does that look like? 2 years in your business, like these kind of like things, creating a funnel so that I could pitch to clients. And then same thing with this, like maybe this gets really big and that in other states, they could be like, here's the Jauntboard for Nashville. Like if I'm a small business owner or creative and I want to buy a home, and I want to do an investment, this big investment, here's how I would do it. Maybe there's an agent there that can manage that can pull or host for me there. You know, but in LA. Right. So anyways, that's
and here's the firms to work with because they work with freelancers and they know how to do that. They know how to get you the money and get you all that stuff faster. Fletcher, looks like you're pulling up Wendy Monday's Jauntboard. She's another investor. She was one of our angel investors. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's nothing too in depth here, but just you were talking about the real estate market. This is definitely kind of look through. Okay, what does it look like to put together a Jauntboard for a buyer or whatever? And this is this is more vague. This is just a general buyer's guide. But I love the idea of like buying as a freelancer, and then like having much more specific layout of what that process looks like, right? And the descriptions on it would be really helpful, honestly. And then we didn't do on it here, but when someone's just reviewing it and looking at it, you can always direct them to a little CTA at the bottom that lets them email you, book a one-on-one, whatever.
And the ability to attach anything to a milestone, right? If there's a really good guide that you've created, if it's you on a video explaining, like just really empathizing with the process and talking about something, or maybe it's a YouTube video that someone else just really unpacks an idea very well. Like whatever kind of portal you want to take someone to, Jauntboard makes that super easy. So, so essentially, like you're not having to have a million conversations with someone at first. They're going through your process, learning and feeling connected to you along the way. So then they say, like, I really want to hire Sami. It's like, you've saved yourself a ton of time and energy. They're already like on board.
Yeah, and then that financial piece, right, is here's to build a budget if you want to buy a home as a freelance or as a creative and what you need. And say the board is built out of like, here's your year financials, and this is what you can give to a bank, which then will fast track the process, or,
Yes.
XYZ.
You got it.
Yeah.
I'm going through a tax audit right now. And so I'm like, I'm going to build a
fun.
Jauntboard of like my whole process just to make someone else's life easier. So when someone comes at you, it's like, here's all the things you actually need to do. And yeah, I mean, you can kind of do it for anything. And the first one we were building out with you, I'm like, gosh, this like, I don't want to say it replaces a financial planner, right? It never will. Like if you want to work with a real human who has years of experience and the right connections, like you need to do that. But man, to like have a tool like that to really help you be prepared even for a conversation. It's there's so many industries that are going to benefit from this tool. Absolutely.
Because it does feel this either or in that industry. Like you're either, with an organization, you're paying 35% taxes and here's where it goes, like Roth, all these things. But in regards to, in the other way, it's like, okay, we don't invest in these things, or at least I didn't know. Put some money in a Roth. Like here's some ETFs you can invest in. Here's what that looks like. Not, not trying to take away from a financial advisor, but I do think there's little tweaks that you can make as an individual that can set you up for the future.
Yeah. And honestly, like being able to be like, and here's the financial advisor that I use, and just create a portal to them. Because I want to go back to the big pain point of like, we all need work, and we know that the fastest way to win work is when someone gives you a referral, right? Cold outreach just sucks. It's painful. I don't want to say it never works, but it hardly works, but if someone's just like, dude, I just love Sami. I trust Sami. I don't want to spend all this time researching. I just want to know who Sami goes to buy a house, to fix her plumbing, to, like whatever, right? Like, being able to even create like I know James, you've explored this idea of like, and I know a guy Jauntboard. So like, here's all my people. It's almost like the modern day Black Book, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Just to touch on too, like how you drive traffic to a Jauntboard. Obviously, each time when you sign up, you'll be able to like create your own vanity URL here in Jauntboards if you just want to host it here and you're off to the races right away. And those they're really nice. They're responsive and they're awesome. So people can kind of find you through your URL that you send them and investigate and kind of see what your Jauntboards are. But we also let you take that and you can embed that list as well. So you get embed code and then you can stick it actually directly on your website. So if you do have a website that you want to keep using, like I have here, I actually am just letting Jauntboards manage my services. So as I make changes to my services that I'm actually using autopilot on, I don't have to go back and make sure my website's updated as well. Like this just becomes a nice portal where you can kind of have things updated. So it's nice. Again, if you want it to, it can replace a website because it's up and running the second you log in. But if you want something a little bit more, with a story arc to it or whatever, then, you can just embed it directly onto your website.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in summary, Jauntboards could help you build an app, know what it takes to build an app. It can help you find the right person to help you do the things that you can't do, right? You don't know how to build an app. You want to, right? So it'll help you actually get that done. Or it can give you an alternate product to build or service to build to test an idea and test a market before you go all in on something. Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Thank you so much for teasing out this idea. I do feel like focused from this, and I do feel very excited about about what y'all are building, what you've built, and how I can use this personally and share with friends. So thank you so much for your time.
No, you bet. I mean, you know that all these problems you're trying to solve are like near and dear to our hearts too. So if you pursue this, as you learn things, like there really is an opportunity to come back to us because we want to be,
for sure,
definitely like involved. Yeah,
for sure. We just need to become the third mob of the industry. I think that's, how we find a way into the mob life.
Yeah, totally.
Financial mob. Get the code.
Amazing.
Can the AI kind of steal like some of that from them? I don't know. Can we like do a heist? I don't know.
And in a lot of ways, crypto is viable like third mob, and that's why there's so much resistance to it. Like, whoa, I'm gonna put a dead horse head in your bed if you do what you're doing.
Yeah, totally.
So,
Totally.
Really
yeah. Thank you all so much. I think it's Thursday. I think so. Happy Thursday. And yes, I so appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Amazing. It's fun hanging.
Yes. So good.
All right.
So good.
Good luck.
Yes. Talk soon. Thank you.
All right. Bye, Sami.
Bye.
Bye.